Today's video is brought to you by long-term channel sponsor Surfshark VPN.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Flat Earth and Coffee. I'm your host, Bobby Thompson. And before we get into this video, I wanted to talk about why I'm making it. Some of you, I'm sure, saw the title and said, who doesn't understand that?
Well, hello, Bobby Thompson. And me? Well, I would say the flat earthers don't understand the final experiment. Is that right? Roll the intro. Oh yeah, I don't have an intro, do I? Please subscribe. Okay, before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to long-term channel? What's a channel sponsor? Let's try that again. Before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to long-term channel sponsor Surfshark VPN. If you're serious about protecting your privacy online, Surfshark is the tool you need. By masking your IP address, Surfshark ensures that your city, county and browsing history stay completely private and you aren't tied to your identity. Whether you're using a phone, a tablet, PC or pretty much any device you can think of, Surfshark has you covered. But that's just the beginning. Surfshark encrypts your online data so your personal information stays safe, even when you're using free public Wi-Fi, prime territory for hackers. Plus, with their clean web feature, you can say goodbye to annoying ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempts. It's like having a digital bodyguard for your browsing. And if you're a fan of streaming, Surfshark's got you sorted. With servers in over 100 countries, you can unlock content libraries and streaming services from anywhere in the world. Traveling abroad? Not a problem. Just change your virtual location to back home, and you'll never miss out on your favorite shows or comfort.
That's right. I'm about to monologue, son.
So whether you want to keep your online activities private, secure your data, or enjoy buffer-free streaming, Surfshark is the way to go. Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description or head over to surfshark.com/Creaky and use code Creaky to get an extra 4 months for free. Right, back to the video.
There was a comment in my comment section in regards to one of the earlier videos I made. I saw it this week and it said, could you please explain why a 24-hour sun in the Antarctic would debunk a flat Earth?
That's easy to explain. If the Earth were flat, the sun would move in a way that would make it impossible for anyone in Antarctica to experience 24 hours of daylight. On a flat Earth, the sun would always be visible or never be visible from Antarctica, depending on where it is. And you'd never get that sun circling above effect. But in reality, during the Antarctic summer, the sun stays above the horizon for 24 hours, circling around in the sky, because the Earth is a globe tilted on its axis. And this makes it physically impossible for a flat Earth model to explain that constant daylight.
So some of us take for granted that we have a good understanding of the heliocentric versus the flat Earth models. Not everyone understands. I wanted to make this video that thoroughly explained the differences between those two models and why a 24-hour Antarctic sun would debunk flat Earth.
Hang on a second, isn't it my job to explain why a 24-hour sun in Antarctica debunks the flat Earth, which I just did?
So without further ado, let's jump right in. How a 24-hour sun in Antarctica settles the cosmological debate.
Right, so I'm so confused. So you're gonna help us demonstrate why the 24-hour sun in Antarctica debunks the flat Earth? Okay.
First, we have to understand how seasons work on the heliocentric model.
Fair enough, I suppose that's as good a place as any to start, but will you also be explaining how seasons don't work on a flat Earth?
So to do that, I'm going to use 3 videos. And this video depicts the Earth as it orbits the sun. And you can see here, this stopping at where it's at now represents the Arctic summer. Okay, and this little circle that you see right here is the Arctic Circle with a 66-degree parallel north. And if the Earth were spinning right now on its axis, you would see that from that circle, if you're within it, you would see the sun 24 hours a day.
Yeah, cool, all right so far, and extremely helpful for our side of the argument, but why are we focusing on the North Pole? The final experiment is visiting the South Pole, Antarctica.
So for 3 to 4 months a year, I believe it's within that time frame, don't quote me on that, you could see the sun. But that's not in contention. We agree that you can see the sun from the Arctic 24 hours a day for several months a year.
Look, this isn't how a debunking video is meant to work. You were meant to say something which is wrong, and then I meant to correct you. You're literally doing my job for me. But what I don't understand is if flat earthers are able to accept that the North Pole gets 24 hours of daylight at certain times a year, why is it so difficult for them to accept that the South Pole gets the same? Is it because the final experiment is going to the South Pole and not the North Pole, which is why you're trying to focus on the North Pole? I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud because I haven't got much else to do because he's doing it all for me.
And that works on both models, just to throw that out there.
Well, that explains that then, and I'm not going to focus on the North Pole because it's completely irrelevant because that's not where we're going.
The problem is 6 months later, when the Earth has went to the other side of its orbit, and ironically, this 23.4 degree or 66.6, depending on which side of the angle you're measuring from.
Well, it's 23.5 degrees, but I completely understand why flat earthers always claim 23.4, because 23.5 doesn't give you 66.6 on the other side, does it?
Never changes, which is statistically impossible. Seasons have never changed as long as we've track them throughout human history.
And there we have it. I knew you wouldn't let me down. Earth's tilt hasn't always been exactly the same though. The tilt or axial tilt actually wobbles over long periods of time due to gravitational forces from the sun, moon and other planets. And its wobble is part of a cycle called axial precession. Currently, the Earth's tilt is 23.5 degrees, but it fluctuates between 22.1 and 24.5 degrees over a cycle of about 41,000 years. These changes in the tilt affect the intensity of the seasons and are thought to play a role in long-term climate changes like ice ages.
Now you'd have that same circle at the bottom, right? This would represent the 66th parallel south, which is the Antarctic circle. And as the Earth were spinning about that axis right there, if you were within that Antarctic circle, you would be able to see the sun 24 hours a day for several months. It would mimic what you have with the Arctic summer.
Right, okay, so what you're showing us then with your wonderful model on screen, which is very, very helpful, is that when we do travel to Antarctica for the final experiment, that we're going to see exactly what science predicts, and that's the sun staying in the sky for 24 hours a day during the Antarctic summer. Is that fair to say?
So let's move on. Now here we have a graphic of this is the Arctic summer, and if you're within this, the Arctic circle here, the 66 degree parallel north, if you're anywhere in here, which you can be in parts of Alaska and other parts of the world, you're in daylight the entire time, and you can see the sun. Even if you're up here, you're at the top of the ball, you can still see the sun.
And the reason you can still see the sun during the Arctic summer is because we live on a globe and the sun is 93 million miles away in space and it's massive. And I find it very interesting that you haven't pointed out that while the Arctic is having its 24 hours of daylight in its summer, that the Antarctic or the South Pole is having the complete opposite, which is 24 hours of darkness, which again lines up perfectly with what science predicts on an oblate spheroid.
When you come to what we should have, if the heliocentric model is true, then 6 months later, you now have sunlight. The Earth is on the opposite side of the sun, and you would get the same effect if you're in the 66th parallel, below the 66th parallel south in the Antarctic circle.
Correct, which is why Will chose December, because that's the Antarctic summer. What did you think, we were going there to get a tan?
Okay, now you have some problems. First off, we're not even allowed to go there because of the longest standing treaty in mankind, the Antarctic Treaty. We're not allowed below the 60th, I think it's the 60th, might be the 66th parallel south.
The Antarctic Treaty does not specifically say that you cannot travel below the 60th or 66th parallel south. What it does say is that the area south of 60 degrees latitude is dedicated to peaceful purposes like scientific research and environmental protection. I wonder if flat earthers think that only they have access to the Antarctic Treaty. I mean, they must do, because they literally just make it up as they go along. Now, I've read the treaty many, many times, and there is nothing in there about, well, in fact, pretty much nothing that any flat earther has ever claimed about the treaty is even in there. Look it up for yourself.
but you're not allowed to go there.
Oh, that's awkward, because Union Glacier Camp, which is where TFE is headed, is at 80 degrees south. And to make it even more precise, it's exactly 79 degrees 46 minutes south, so well beyond the place that flat earthers say you can't go.
Now let's take a look at how seasons work on the flat Earth.
God, this should be good.
So this video was made by Rob Skiba, the late Rob Skiba, who made some great contributions to flat Earth. And you can see as the sun moves outward, that results in the Antarctic summer, and as it moves inward, that results in the Arctic summer.
No, it doesn't, because at no point in that demonstration does the sun light up the entirety of the South Pole.
So this isn't, it's not claimed to be accurate, exactly accurate. This is just a roughly accurate, like this is basically what we believe how the sun moves inward and outward above the face of the flat Earth.
Can something be roughly accurate though? Either something is or it isn't. And going back to your model of your magical dirt pizza for a second, has any flat earther ever addressed this? Now, if reality was what you were showing on the screen now, the further out above the flat earth dirt pizza that the sun gets while the seasons are changing, the faster it would need to be traveling. So what exactly is it that's giving the sun that extra boost in speed it needs when it's traveling around the outside of the flat earth?
So what we're going to talk about in a second are these two graphics right here, which if you're not careful, so anytime you go out to debunk something, if you see this video and you just go, let me just go out and YouTube, 24-hour Antarctic sun debunk, you're going to get strawmanned, as you do with every flat Earth argument. They are all strawmans, every single one of them.
And can I ask why you think every single flat Earth debunking video is a strawman argument? Is it because they all do such a wonderful job of showing anyone that views them that there is no way on Earth that the Earth could be flat?
Allow myself to introduce myself.
The straw man you're going to get for the 24-hour Antarctic sun, excuse me, it's been a long day, is that we see 17 hours of light in Ushuaia, right?
Now, so far, I've made lots of videos about the final experiment, and specifically flat earthers trying to discredit and debunk the final experiment. And I can only speak for myself, obviously, but I have never made that claim. And to be perfectly honest, I've never heard anyone else. What the hell? And to be perfectly honest, I haven't heard anyone else say anything even remotely similar. We are only talking about Union Glacier Camp in Antarctica.
So, I mean, anything more than 12 is a problem. It would imply
that the Earth is a globe. Yeah, we know.
How could you have that how could you have that on a flat? It would mean light is stretching at really weird angles.
Yeah, light would have to be able to do all sorts of magical things for you to make it work on a flat Earth model, which is probably why not a single flat earther has been able to successfully explain how a 24-hour sun would work on a flat Earth model in Antarctica.
17 hours of daylight is not the same thing as a 24-hour sun.
Correct.
We agree that a 24-hour sun, if you could see the sun for 24 hours, that debunks flat Earth.
Which is exactly what we've been trying to explain to you, that if the sun does stay visible in the sky above the horizon for a continuous 24-hour period, then it is impossible for the Earth to be flat.
But how can we get 24 hours, or let's just say 17 hours of daylight? That's the longest that Ushuaia claims to get, which is the farthest we can freely travel to.
Well, it's not, as I mentioned earlier, but go on and pay attention to the fact that he's now stopped saying that the sun will be visible for 24 hours and has switched over to daylight will be visible for 24 hours, because that becomes important.
And honestly, we wouldn't have a problem if you could see 24 hours of daylight, because we can create that. And let me show you what I mean.
Yeah, but the claim is not that we will see daylight for 24 hours. We will, but that'll be as a byproduct of the sun being visible above the horizon for 24 hours. I can see exactly where you're heading with this.
Like, we agree that sunlight would have to do work in weird shapes. It wouldn't be evenly distributed. But what they assume, what they fail to mention, is that we assume a firmament, or we assume a dome.
And there's one of the biggest differences between flat earthers and globe earthers. We don't need to assume anything. We have got thousands of years of scientific data to fall back on.
So what happens when you have a firmament and an atmosphere? Well, this was created by William Guzman of PC and Go Productions, and here's his YouTube channel. But Zachary Zabala also did it, of Good Times for All. And here you have, he's just taken a hemispherical dome, which is half of a circle.
No. A hemispherical dome is not half of a circle. It's half of a sphere. The clue is in the name. And I can't help but notice that the dome your mate just put on top of the flat earth model is completely solid. So how does that help your argument?
Yes, it's solid. We get that. But atmosphere also creates refraction and other, it does other interesting things with light.
Yeah, I completely agree. The atmosphere does make light do some interesting things. But how would a solid hemisphere help anything you're talking about? Just explain it to me.
So notice how as he moves this small local light source, did you see how the light wrapped all the way around the dome here? Look at that. That light, if you were standing here, if you were way out at the end of a theoretical flat Earth, the light would wrap all the way around. And you can certainly reproduce what the flat earthers say is, or what spherical earthers say is a problem. See how much light we're creating right here now?
All right, so on your interpretation of the magical space pizza, the sun is outside the dome, not inside like most other flat earthers who claim we're encapsulated by a dome thing. And can you see where this is going yet?
It's no longer round. So now once you invoke a hemispherical dome, you can't disprove that it wouldn't do this.
Maybe not, but the burden of proof isn't with us, is it? Because we aren't the ones making ridiculous claims, and everything we claim can be backed up and verified.
So unfortunately, we don't have access to another Earth-sized hemispherical dome, with its own atmosphere. The only thing we can do is on a smaller scale, but on a smaller scale, it's reproducible. So the moment you have a dome or a firmament, now all this is very possible.
Right, so allow me to summarize this for you. So this flat earther's claim is that you can have 24 hours of daylight in Antarctica, not the sun being visible in the sky for 24 hours, just daylight. And the only way that they can achieve that is by putting a solid hemispherical dome over the flat earth model so that they can make the light stretch all the way around the outside. Right.
And I want to close with one last thing.
I wouldn't bother, pal. You've done an awesome job at debunking the flat earth. I barely had to do anything for this video. Now, this isn't the first flat earther I've come across who's now mentioning daylight instead of the sun being visible for 24 hours. And it's clear to anyone with eyes what they're going to try and do. They are going to try and move the goalposts again so that when we do get 24 hours of daylight in Antarctica, they are going to say that that doesn't necessarily mean that the sun is visible for 24 hours. And they accuse us of straw manning things. Thanks for watching, everybody. Love you, bye.